Well, hey everybody, how you doing? Dave Fennoy here. Another Wednesday, another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything, and it is 6 p.m. Pacific, and here we are on Facebook Live. By the way, if you have missed some of these and you wanted to catch up, well, they're living on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training, and everything we've done. I think everything we've done here in Ask Dave Fennoy Anything will be living there, as this one will shortly after we wrap it up tonight. Also, if you are interested in voiceover lessons, coaching sessions, you can visit my webpage, davefennoy.com, click on the Study VO tab. And by the way, I had been doing some work at one point. Some of the deals left. You can buy one, an hour. You can buy half an hour. You can buy 15 minutes. But you save yourself money, of course, with 5 or 10. And I even added a 20. And so you can, get a really good deal there. Also, I have been doing video game demos. Those are the only kind I do. And I've decided to expand my demo production work with people. Now, we'll have to, kind of find out where you are, because the last thing in the world I want to do, and the last thing in the world you want to do, is put together a demo that doesn't serve you. And by that I mean, I don't care who you are. We could probably do a lot of takes, a lot of splicing, and put together a great demo. It would sound so wonderful. It would get attention, and then you wouldn't be able to perform up to the level of that demo. So we won't be doing that, okay? But yes, you can, if you want to do video game demos, you can do them with me. Let's introduce our guest and say hello. Let's see, where is he there? Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, there he is, Christopher Bevins. It's, it's not a big crowd, but they're all masked up and they've all been vaccinated, and they live digitally in my computer. How you doing?
I am great. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, this is fantastic. I don't know about you, but sometimes finding guests for Ask Dave Fennoy Anything is kind of like when you want to go out to a restaurant and 5,000 restaurants that you love until you decide, hey, let's go to a restaurant. And then you, let's not go back to that same one.
No.
Yeah.
Didn't we go there last time?
Yeah. So it was great working with you yesterday. And
I know.
Yeah,
and we finally face to face. It was like our third or fourth time getting to work together.
Yeah.
And we finally got the face to face meet. It was so weird. It was my first time back in a studio directing since the before times.
Oh boy. Well, I've been in a few times, but it's been a handful of times. Oh,
yeah.
Wait a minute. There's the hand. Oh, there's the hand. Oh, the camera's right there. It's only been a few times over the last year. But yeah, great going in, seeing people, and I'm gonna bust out my agent today. He sent me the email. Oh, you've got a 9 o'clock gig this morning. Well, he had sent it days ago, but 9 o'clock. I live in Glendale. Go over to Formosa West, over by the 405.
Not a fun commute.
Had to be there at 9 a.m.
for the non-LA people.
Yeah, got there, and for COVID now you have to make a call, and they're looking at it, and he goes, oh, and who's this? Dave Fennoy. I've got a session at 9. We don't have you on the list. Let me see. No, you're supposed to be here tomorrow. I said, wait a minute, let me call my agent. And I called my agent, and he was like, oh, yeah, Dave. Oh, I'm so sorry. Listen, a dinner, something.
Although on the other hand, showing up a day early for your session is way better than showing up a day late.
Too true.
You get the phone call like, hi, we had you scheduled at 2:00. I'm like, isn't that next Thursday?
Yeah. I have done that, not often, but I have done that.
Yeah,
And
I think we've all done it at least once.
yeah.
And yeah,
And the problem now is, am I going in or is it Zoom?
right, right. Yeah.
Anyway.
And such a fun challenge to figure out how to
Yeah, but it's
how to do the thing we do.
but it's good to be
these
good to be
crazy
back
times.
in studios. It's good
Oh
to
my
be
God,
back.
it's great. It really is great.
Well, listen, let's talk about you, your career, anime, how you got started in this wacky business. Now,
Tons of anime, yeah.
you started your career where?
At Funimation, I was in the year 2001. I'm coming up next month. Will be my 20-year anniversary working in voiceover.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I started at Funimation in
How old were
2001.
you when you started?
5.
Okay, yeah.
I was coming off a 6-year-long semester off from college, where I just kind of had a crisis of faith and decided to take a semester off, and that stretched into like 6 years. And then I went back to school. Went to a great community college in the Fort Worth area, Texas, called Tarrant County Community College, and they had a radio TV program. And I was really focused on audio. At that point, I knew I wanted to be a voice actor. But I also was realistic enough to think, I don't know anything about the voiceover business, so maybe I should learn the technical side of things, which will hopefully make me more competitive as an actor, but also give me another job opportunity so that I can, eat dinner.
Yeah, eating's always fun.
Those are the good nights, right?
And so
when you're starting
necessary.
out and you actually get to eat something other than ramen.
Yeah.
So I was going to school there, and I found out that Funimation was just like a couple miles away from the campus, and I said, "Oh, who are they? Oh, they make that Dragon Ball Z show," which I was aware of, but had never really watched. But in my earlier years, had worked at comic book stores that rented and sold all sorts of anime back when we still called it Japanimation. So I was aware of Dragon Ball. And I just reached out to them and said, "Hi, I'm a student here, and I've got I need to do an internship. Is that something you guys would be open to?" And at the time, they were like, we're kind of right in between a bunch of things, and we'd hate for you to come in and have nothing to do. Reach out to me, this summer." So I did, and it was right at the time that the job I was working at happened to be shutting down. I worked at the Warner Brothers stores, the Warner Brothers Studio stores.
Oh yeah.
They were all going out of business, so I was about to be out of a job, and I talked to Funimation, and he's like, "Yeah, come on in, and we'd like to, if you're looking at your school work so far, we think you'd work great as as an audio engineer." So that's kind of my internship. My college internship was engineering Yu Yu Hakusho and the original Dragon Ball. For about 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
I think engineering is probably one of the best things you could do whether you want to be a voice actor
Yes,
or a director.
absolutely.
I tell my students all the time, say hello to the engineer. They are your friend. I can't tell you how many times, you're on take 30 and the engineer says to the director, "Oh, you might want to go back and listen to take 3. And they do, and it's, because the engineer has always done a whole lot more work than either the voice actor or the director.
Absolutely. And I often say that, in the recording session for anime, it is a team effort, and all 3 parts of the team are equally important. And really 4 parts of the team, with the script adapter, who's not in the room usually. But having a good dub script, having a great engineer, and having a director who understands the show and has a creative vision for the show, and then an actor who is willing to do whatever in order to get that great performance. I think that's like that's the perfect team. And I think that's one of the things I love about the job is the collaboration aspect.
Well, I don't know if I believe you with the collaboration since you do so many of the same job,
I,
all the jobs in anime.
I try not to do too many at once.
Yeah.
It does get a little overwhelming.
So you start off Funimation. You're
I was
a
a recording
mixing
engineer,
engineer,
yeah,
recording
ADR
engineer.
engineer for about a year and a half, year and a half. And after after the first 5 months or so, when the semester was over, they said, hey, if you'd like to stay on, full time. Maybe it was still part time back then. I can't remember. But if as a permanent employee rather than an intern, they let me. So I got to stick around as an engineer. And honestly, after about 2 weeks of engineering, I immediately realized, like, oh yeah, I came here because I want to be a voice actor. But sitting in this chair for 2 weeks and listening to this guy to my right, who was Mike McFarland, another incredibly talented voice actor and director.
Oh yeah.
Listening to the way he was directing actors made me go, that's what I really want to do, because I found myself thinking thinking up those same line reads that Mike was trying to get out of actors.
So you're listening to the actor and you go, no,
Yeah.
he should say it like this.
Exactly. But as the brand new engineer, it's definitely not my place to say anything other than
Yeah.
it doesn't fit, or it's too loud or it's too quiet. But the new engineer, you don't say a word about performance.
Yeah.
But I immediately thought, like, that's what I want to do.
On a lot of commercial sessions where you're doing a group, a lot of time I can remember thinking that, oh wow, they should no, she should do. And I kind of want to raise my hand, but no, that's not my job.
Yeah.
Let the director do it; they'll handle it. They know what they want.
Yeah.
Let them do it.
So after over the next year and a half, I really just kind of tried to make myself be their go-to guy if they needed someone to fill in on an evening or a weekend. Volunteer. I just wanted to absorb as much of the process as I could. And after about a year and a half.
Now, is that as
Yes.
a director or as a voice actor?
As an engineer, still as an engineer.
Oh, okay.
But I was still trying. But I was wanting to learn all the parts at once. So while I'm still learning how to be an effective engineer, I'm also like, the wheels are turning for directing and the wheels are turning for acting.
Well, let me ask you this: what about being an engineer helped you as a director or helped you as a voice actor?
It's understanding the timing, understanding just those technical things. Before I went to work at Funimation, I had never dealt with any sort of dubbing where you're matching the mouth flaps. That's what I'm trying to say. So it was really just kind of thrown into the deep end. And honestly, man, my engineer skills are not so hot anymore. What is Pro Tools now? Like up to version 12 or something? I think now they just put the year. But when I learned, it was Pro Tools version 3.
Ooh.
And we still had videotape decks for the video synced up to the computer. It was long before the time of QuickTime and digital video. In school I learned how to splice reel-to-reel tape. Fortunately, never had to do that.
I had to do that as
for
a
my
disc
job.
jockey.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And when I got into voiceover, my first demos were those 4-inch reel-to-reels and then cassettes. And yes, it was a long time ago. Dang it.
Fortunately, I just missed that. They taught us how to do it just so that we would appreciate what we don't have to do anymore. We don't have to go through anymore. But yeah, I was also one of the first people at my school to really go into Pro Tools and deal with a lot of the other newer technologies that were becoming available around the turn of the century.
Yes, actually. So, so you're a recording engineer. Which job did you do first? Some VO or some directing?
Acting. It was one of those things where oh, hey, you're in the building and we missed this line. Get in the box. My first two roles were a faceless just voice over a radio in a show called Blue Gender. That was one of, again, this is back in the early days when Funimation was just branching out into things that weren't named Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. So we had Blue Gender and Yu Yu Hakusho, and those were the big ones. So I got to do that, and I got to be a soldier who also happened to be a bear in Dragon Ball, and those were my first couple lines. And after that, it's just back in those Wild West days of dubbing, if you're in the building, you're probably going to get pulled into the booth to do something
Well, so
at some point.
do you remember what those lines were?
Oh gosh, I don't. The bear soldier was probably something like, "Hey, look over there! It's a kid."
Listen, before we go on, we've got a comment here. Scott Early, and boy, whoops, how did I make that so small? Oh, come on, there we go. Good evening, Dave. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to learn from industry experts like Christopher, and thank you, Christopher, for giving up your time to help us learn. My questions are for both of you. What are the main differences between a video game demo and a character video? Don't both demos highlight your range in different types of voices? Which would be better to start out with, a character demo, or a character demo? I think he meant video game demo or a character demo. What would be your answer? I have mine, but let's hear you first.
I would bet, and everything, here's a little secret about old Christopher Bevins. I have no demos. I've been always so. Honestly,
sorry, I got to hang up. You can't be.
I know. I've been this guy. Who's this guy? I've always just been so focused on my directing career, and when I was at Funimation, it was a full-time job. So I really didn't have as much opportunity to pursue the acting side of things, other than what someone else at Funimation would say, "Hey, come into my booth and do." So outside of that building, there was not as many opportunities, and I just didn't have the time in the day to commit to that. The last thing you want to do is say, "Hey, hire me for this job," but then the next day go, "Oh yeah, but I'm working already." And being in LA for the past 4 years, I've been really working to reestablish myself here as a director, and that's the next step. Honestly, it's the next thing I'm gonna do before this year is over. I will be recording my first demo, and that first demo will be commercial.
There you go. Well, that's usually what people do first. And actually, my advice for most people, it's not a rule that is hard and fast, but for most people getting into voiceover, that commercial demo is first.
Yeah.
But
in my understanding, that's what agents want to hear first too.
Yeah. I want to try to answer Scott's question here, and what he said. What are the differences between a video game demo or a character video? Well, one, language-wise, demo could be either video or sound. And usually your first demo is going to be sound because there's no video of commercials you've done or video games or cartoons that you've done.
Yeah, early on that footage doesn't exist.
And I know a lot of people who use the term character demo and character demo and video game demo as the same thing.
Right.
And the character demo or video game demo is different than your animation demo.
Yeah.
Because video games, although there is comedy from time to time, they lean more into drama, and animation leans more into comedy.
Comedic stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So the people who are listening for cartoons aren't really listening for the things you're doing in video games and vice versa. So, yeah, that's another demo that you have. Let's see, there's a narration demos, your commercial demos, your TV promo demo. Lots of demos.
So many demos.
So, you're doing a little voiceover work still.
Yeah.
Didn't get it. How did the directing thing happen?
Part of it was just from being that guy to volunteer for stuff, and occasionally it would be like, "Hey, we don't have anyone available to direct this one person. Would you mind trying to fill in?"
You're a warm body. Let's do this.
Exactly. And Funimation was a tiny company back then. There were not a lot of us there. So just the fact that I wanted to fully immerse myself in as much of the process as I could, I was always the guy who said, "Hey, yeah, I can stay till 9 p.m. or I can come in on Saturday. Sure, why not?" And after doing that enough times, they realized, and having spoken to the head of production at the time, telling him this is where I want to go, they, after about a year and a half, gave me a shot. I was lucky enough to work with Justin Cook. I was his engineer for the longest time, and he was one of the early voice directors at Funimation. He is their current head of production, has been their current head of production for wow, well over a decade, 15 years maybe at this point.
Wow.
Um, but when I started, I was his audio engineer and was lucky enough to get to help him out a little bit on some of those early acclaimed shows like Yu Yu Hakusho and the original Fruits Basket. And just by being in the right place at the right time, they asked me to step in and take over Dragon Ball GT.
Wow.
Which, yeah, that was kind of a big deal, and I was scared. I was thrilled at the opportunity, but I was like, but this has the words Dragon Ball at the front. This is a thing people are going to pay attention to, and I'm the new guy. Are you setting me up to fail?
So how did you feel when you were first telling that actor that you knew that, oh no, that's not the right motivation?
You
He's
know,
actually.
some of the best advice I ever got in my early years of directing were from Chris Sabat, who was playing Vegeta in Dragon Ball GT, and at that point he had been playing Vegeta in DBZ for several years, and maybe 5-6 years at that point, and I was so afraid to give him actual direction, and he's like, "Are you?" I sense you got a little hesitation here. I was like, "Look, tell you what, look, I get it. I know Vegeta. I've been playing Vegeta for many years. I understand what makes this character tick. But this is your show, and you know what's going on with Vegeta right now. And you're the one who can help me get there." And it just fog lifted. And I was like, "Oh, yes, this is my baby.
Yeah.
And you may be this guy, but you're under my control now."
Yeah. Well, I'm a great believer that every actor needs a director.
Yeah.
Even if it's yourself, which we're all doing now because most of our auditions are done at home and you really are directing yourself into a read. But you need that person that lets you know, well, this is what is happening. This is why this character is saying it. And especially when you're looking at anime and looking at video games, both areas where you may not completely know the whole story.
Exactly. Yeah, that's always tricky. Video games, especially, when you're working on as a director or as an actor, you're playing NPCs in a big RPG, but you may not ever see the player character's side of the conversation. So as a director, it's like sometimes it's trying to have to kind of assume what the context is, and sometimes it's just flat out lying to the actor so that I get the performance that I want. I don't know if this is the story or not, but I'm going to tell you this is the story because it's going to lead you into the performance that I want.
And you know what's interesting, because one of the things I tell students, look, you have to have a point of view. You have to have a reason you're saying these things. And if you don't know, it's not going to, if you're not sure, it's not going to be, people listening aren't going to be sure what you're really doing. So make it up. It could be wrong, but it'll be definite. And what they're looking for in an audition is great acting. Oh, got a comment here. Alvin, Aquarius Pitts, doesn't an engineer and director share some of the same responsibilities?
I mean, I guess it depends on the studio. There are some studios where the director does all of the engineering as well. Did I just see a puppy?
Yeah. I've got 2 dogs in here. My dogs Clementine and Sultan. And yes, Clementine is named after Clementine from the video game.
Yay. Hi, Clementine and Sultan.
Yeah, now they're at the door looking out like, hey, we want to go out. This is boring. You guys are just talking. You don't have any snacks or anything.
I'm sorry. So where was I?
Sharing responsibilities. Director.
Yes. I mean, really, it can overlap a little. Really, the engineer is purely focused on the technical. Does it fit? Is it loud enough? Is it too loud? All of those sorts of situations.
Did we get it? Is there a click in there?
Did we get it? Right. Was there a click? Was it clean? Was there a mouth noise? When I started as an engineer, this is one of the best things ever. I was told that the engineer has 2 jobs. The first job is to ensure a good sound file, right? Seems pretty basic. Does it fit? Is it clean? All of those things that we just talked about. But the second job is to read the director's mind, which takes a little longer. Takes a little longer sometimes. But when you've got an engineer you've worked with for a while, you really do begin to kind of pick up on each other's jargon and shortcuts, and you become like any good working team, where you don't have to be so specific and explicit about what you want, because they know.
They begin to understand you.
They understand. They understand my vision, which helps me enact that vision, so to speak.
Okay, got another question here from Chris Young. Hi, Chris. Anime seems to have a certain type of VO delivery. Is that correct, and why?
I hear that. I hear that a lot. That's something that I always strive to not do. And I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, yes, the anime delivery. And here is, I think, a pitfall that actors and directors can fall into. The process of dubbing is so technical at times. We're at one line at a time, maybe 2 lines, 3 lines at a time, over and over until you get it just right? Sometimes you miss the forest for the trees. You're so focused on getting this line to fit that you're not thinking about the conversation that it's a part of, the scene that conversation is a part of, the episode that scene is a part of. And excuse me a moment.
Missing the art for the technique.
Exactly. So I think what oftentimes ends up happening in some of those shows that people would describe as it sounds anime is that oftentimes lines get delivered in a way that is conveying information to the audience, but isn't living in the scene. Does that make sense?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. But part of
I
that,
am telling you what is happening. Not here's what's happening and here's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I think part of the reason also is the nature of anime. It is pure anime is translated from Japanese.
Yeah.
And you have to match lip flap. Mm-hmm. And to say anything in Japanese is going to take you more syllables than in English. So how the writers have to translate sometimes is kind of clunky English.
Right. Writing and adapting it's an art. It really is.
And you've done some of that.
I have. Oh, we're going to talk about the writing now?
Well, I mean, it just kind of seemed to flow into that. Oh, you got to put it on your writing.
You started this, Dave.
I did.
Here's my writing hat. It is. It's really challenging because even the translations and the subtitle translations are to an extent an adaptation. They're not word for word. At least good ones aren't word for word translation of what is in the Japanese. Part of the adaptation that happens on a subtitle, though, is that you've got to get the line. Wait, where's my camera? There we go. Fingers. There we go. Oh my God. There we go. Where's my camera? There we go. You got to get the line to fit right there, right? At the bottom of the screen. But that has to be at the average speed of the American reader, which is not fast. So sometimes those ideas have to get condensed just so that they fit on the screen in an amount of time that you can read them before the next line comes up. So nothing is ever a very direct translation. There's always going to be some form of adaptation going on. With dub adaptation, the real challenge is not just to move the story forward, but also to pay attention to character. Not just what's going on, but how would this particular character say what's going on. And we're blessed in the American English language, with dozens of ways to say just about anything. One character may say hello, another character may say what's up, another character may say yo yo yo. And understanding where to use those different things.
I understand.
Yeah, but understanding where to use those and with whom is part of the art of the adaptation, and also but also still honoring what came before. Our job in any aspect of dubbing is not just to redo what was done in another language. Our job is to evoke the same emotional response from our audience that the original evoked from its audience.
What do you think the cultural differences between, say, Japan, Korea? What do you think the cultural differences are with how they envision their characters and how we want to present them for an American or an English-speaking audience?
I think a lot of it just goes back to what audiences are used to. Japanese audiences have come to expect certain types of characters. The big villain, the mean old lady, the big monster. They have vocal archetypes, I think, that they expect to hear. And American audiences who have grown up on American animation and anime and all of these other things also have a general idea. When you see a visual of a character, you have a general idea of what you think that character should sound like. And those archetypes are different from country to country and language to language. And I think that's a challenging thing. There are a lot of times where I think a production on an anime is working so hard at making every English character sound as much like the Japanese character as possible, that, like, okay, maybe a great voice match, but is it a character match?
You killed my master. I will kill you.
Exactly. And is it something that's going to resonate with our audience? And that goes back to ties into the adapting as well. Humor is vastly different from language to language, and that's a thing that always needs a little bit of fine tuning. One of my good friends, Taliesin Jaffe, who most of you probably know from Critical Role and his many years of also working in voiceover and anime, gave me, I think, he has one of the best pieces of advice. He says, the subtitle should tell you what the joke is. The dub should make you laugh, right? Okay. And because Japanese humor may not always directly translate to American English humor, sometimes things get changed, and other sorts of cultural touchstones. If I'm not afraid of changing a tiny detail in the dialogue if it helps my audience understand the gist the same way that a Japanese audience would. Yeah. Because it shouldn't always be on us to have to explain that other cultural reference, because it's something that's so ingrained in Japanese culture, we have no reference for. Well, if it doesn't make us laugh, or it doesn't make us cry, or whatever, we want to find an analog.
Yeah, we have our own archetypes.
Exactly.
And are developing new ones. I've got this is a little off topic, sort of what we've been talking about. Michael Sessoms, what do you recommend for getting started with Funimation as a voice actor? And is the recording all in studio or remote?
In the before times, it was almost exclusively in studio. Since in the past year and a half, my understanding is it's almost all remote. There is still a little bit of in-studio stuff, and I'm sure that's starting to trickle back. Unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for that anymore, just because I haven't worked for them on a regular basis in about 4 years. So I don't know exactly what their process is anymore. I know that what we used to say was, it's always better to be where the work is. But that's also not to say pack up and move to Dallas tomorrow or move to LA tomorrow, because you also want to make sure you have the tools in your toolbox.
Yeah,
to make sure you're ready for that.
The world has changed.
And the world has changed.
10 years ago, I would have told anybody, oh, you want to do video games, you want to do national commercials, national TV promos, you probably need to be in LA for the biggest variety of it, or New York or Chicago for commercials and some other things. But nowadays, with the internet, you can do this from just about anywhere.
Just about anywhere, yeah.
And all it takes are people having their minds open to, oh, this guy in, wherever, or this gal in wherever can do this job. And we've gotten used to that now.
Yes. I think that is one of this past year has been a huge equalizer for so many people, because even the anime was always very regional. If you're a Texas person, you mostly work in Texas. If you're an LA person, you mostly work in LA. There was a little bit still in New York, and there used to be a lot in Vancouver. But like those crews didn't cross over a whole lot. I think now we're starting to see a lot more crossover
Okay.
between the markets, which is pretty cool. I mean, I think it helps make for a lot more unique dubs, just because you've got that diversity of cast.
Well, it's interesting. I have done a fair share of anime, but I am certainly not Mr. Anime.
Right.
I always enjoy it when I do, but I recognize it's a little different art. It's a little bit of being a technician, but bringing the art at the same time. Oh, I've got this looks like a personal message. Laura Meador.
Laura Menor. Hi, Laura.
I miss
You would
you.
professionally know Laura as Laura Woodhull, who I helped bring into this world of voiceover, giving her first role in one of my favorite shows of all time.
One of
Jellyfish.
your children.
Yes, yes. One of my former proteges. Hi, Laura. Congrats on being married. I haven't seen you since then.
And let's see another little personal
And
message.
John Malone.
Hi, Dave. Always great to hang out with you. And hey, Christopher. Long time no see.
It has been too long. Hi, John.
And just kudos to John Malone. I've known him for a number of years now, and boy, has he made a success out of his career and continues. It's just
I see him blow up all the time. It's so great. I was super fortunate when I moved to LA to get my very first directing job about 2 weeks after I hit town, which it doesn't really happen very often. And I met John working on that gig.
Yeah,
that was lots of fun.
Tell me more about that transition from Dallas to LA. That's a leap of faith.
It is a huge leap of faith. I had been at Funimation since 2001. I started directing in the beginning of 2003, so the thing is, I'd often thought about coming to LA and broadening my horizons eventually. But the thing is, I met a girl. I met a girl, and my lovely wife now. Is Rachel Robinson, very talented voice actor in her own right, and very talented scripted adapter in her own right.
And very talented wife in her own right.
Yes, very talented wife. We met actually in passing a couple times, just totally randomly, but really actually had our meet cute, as they call it, at Anime Boston. One year, and after
neutral territory.
We both had to go all the way across the country to find our special other, and after a few months of just flirting and flying back and forth to see each other, we decided, well, hey, come to Texas and we can live together. We can save some money. Texas is way cheaper than LA, and then maybe after a little while we'll move out to LA. And that process took a little longer than planned. We were thinking, about a year. And poor Rachel suffered in the Texas humidity for 3 years.
There are those who haven't
spent
here. A lot of time in Texas that just being in Texas is suffering.
It is hot and humid, and I don't envy anyone who is there right now.
Oh boy, yeah.
That was the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Was like, okay, well, I can't stay here forever if the woman that I love is living out there. So that kind of lit the fire, and it was a scary, transition to take this thing that I've been doing for so long with a full-time job, with a salary, and walking away from that into the unknown of freelancing was
and for love.
But yes, so worth it so far.
Excellent. Let's see, got another, Craig Young again. Some have said that the anime VO world is difficult to enter culture-wise, meaning it can be mafia-like. Is there any truth to that?
As far as like from the people working on it side, I don't know about mafia. Like, we're definitely a close-knit group. We are we all, many of us know each other, especially in those places like Texas, where there's not a ton of other voiceover going on in the Dallas area, and you've got Sentai down in Houston, so there's definitely a lot of back and forth between Dallas and Houston with those two kind of talent bases.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely, I mean, it's no harder to break into than anything else, and breaking in is not about. I don't think it's about the culture as much as it is about preparing yourself. And, how do you get in at Funimation? Same way you get in at, at Sentai or Bang Zoom or NYAV Post or any other, studio that does a lot of dubbing. And that's to be an actor. You may don't put yourself in this box of I want to be an anime voice actor, because you will starve. Or you'll never quit your day job, and if you want to quit your day job and do this full time, you got to broaden those horizons. The only way to do that is to be competitive. And the way these days to be competitive is to have as much training and experience under your belt as you possibly can. Because if you are lucky enough to score something like an open call audition, that may be your one and only shot. So don't sign up for the open call audition until you know you're ready. Because if you show up and then you blow your shot, they may go, I don't know if he's worth, he or she is worth bringing back, So prepare yourself, prepare for disappointment. I think that's the best way to prepare to break in.
When we think about this job anyway, auditioning is what we do to get those very few jobs. Yes. Now, you can make a really good living, but you're going to not book a lot more than you're going to book, and you just have to understand that that's part of it. Now, anime typically, historically, has paid quite a bit less, has not been union. And all my anime friends say, well, we make up for it at the conventions.
Sometimes that's true. Yeah. Conventions are fun, but, I didn't get into this business to sit at a table and sell my headshot. All weekend. Because really, who wants to take home an 8x10 of this? I mean, come on.
And yet you do.
A little, and I think maybe that's it. Is I still haven't found the right merch that strikes people's fancy. I don't know. It's fun. I like going to conventions just because I'm a huge nerd. You got the narrow view, but when we go to the wide view again, you'll see. I've got like Marvel nerds behind me and stuff. There we go. We got our Cap and Hawkeye and Jessica Jones. We're huge nerds here. Oh, yeah. I love nerding out with other nerds. And I love talking about the process, as you could, tell from the past how long we've been doing this now. Oh, geez.
Yeah, time
flies.
Hours,
she is flying by.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let me get a couple more comments in here and questions. Orve Malik, hey Dave and Christopher, I've done ADR dubbing from English to Hindi and Urdu for film. Would you say the technique for anime dubbing is similar to that of movies?
In my experience, dubbing for movies is way harder. Well, one, because you have far less, if you're trying to really make it look natural, a real filmed mouth is a lot less forgiving than a cartoon mouth. So, and in my experience, live action dubbing, you have way less time, way more to do, and probably less money. It's like it's so lickety split. Maybe that's just been my experience, but I'd say anime dubbing is way more forgiving, and oftentimes we have maybe a little more time to really focus on getting that performance right.
But dubbing in general is becoming a much bigger business than it ever has been. We used to think of dubbing as anime and Spanish to English or English to Spanish. Now it's every language to every language.
Every language, every show.
And the technique, technically, how they can dub and stretch lines and whatnot is amazing.
The technology has just it's made it so much easier, for sure.
But if it's a hit show in Germany, France, Brazil, someplace, it can be a hit show everywhere else
Yes.
in all those languages.
Yeah.
So lots of jobs for that.
Yeah,
Oh,
when you boil it down, though, it's essentially the same job. You either get you get the three beeps and then you talk, or you get the visual thing that tells you when to talk, and whether it's animated or live action. I mean, technically, that technical aspect of it is essentially the same. I think it's just a matter of it's more about the matter of the budgets and the deadlines that make the bigger difference.
and let's see. There's always a conversation going on in the comments that's part of this conversation, but not. But a question here: how did Dallas become a center for VO production? And really, I know in terms of commercials and recording, it's a big city.
Yes, yeah, there is definitely a big commercial side there. Well, part of it is just that's where Funimation started. Funimation started in Dallas and was founded by Dallas Fort Worth area residents. So that's where they started their production company, and they were the only thing doing 20 years ago. But with the success of what they built, and not just from Dragon Ball, but moving beyond Dragon Ball into things like Full Metal Alchemist and Fruits Basket, and now Attack on Titan, and all these bigger shows every year, bigger shows, more shows, bigger shows. It just we grew this community of dub people kind of from nothing. I was not there at the very beginning. I missed out on the first few years of Funimation, but I know they started their original cast was started with just open call auditions.
But you came in at a very good time.
I came in at the best time, literally.
I'm not sure that
their first expansion.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody could pop in
No.
and have the experience you had. And there's something to say for getting in on the ground floor, or at least the first couple of floors, of something that's being built, something that's growing. If you're going to work for Disney now, maybe you're a little guy or gal trying to get in, but some of these other smaller companies that are growing, that are going to be the powerhouses of entertainment in the future, now you've got a chance to grow exponentially with them.
Yes. And I was just extremely fortunate that I came in at a time right when they were starting to expand. I think I was their very first college intern.
Wow.
And or at least definitely their first in the production department.
Yeah.
There might have been one in licensing or marketing or something like that. But it was my understanding is I was the very first college intern on the production side. So I was extremely fortunate to kind of come in and do what I got to do.
And that fortunate, that luck when opportunity meets preparation.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see. Hey, there's Laura again. I heard Bang Zoom is willing to work with non-union and out of state now. Any truth to this? Have you done any directing over there?
I've not done any directing over there. No.
Okay.
I've done the tiniest bit of script work, but mostly just voice acting.
Yeah.
And
Bang Zoom is more than just a company that does anime.
They're doing a lot of everything.
They're doing a lot of everything. I know several cartoon series and several games that I've been on. We've recorded over there that were union.
Yes.
But I actually do know some of the anime because most of it is non-union and being done over there.
Yeah. The nice thing though is we are seeing more and more anime go union these days, which is really cool. And a lot of that I think has to do with Netflix, and they've gone really hard on licensing anime and putting those dubs out there, and they've committed to making those dubs union, so which is really cool, and it's a great thing for us as an acting community out here to have that be a thing.
Question from Michael Sessoms. Is there a good way to train on dubbing so you're ready when the opportunity comes? Good question.
Ooh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I honestly was pretty bad at it my first few times. It was a while before I figured out that rhythm of the beeps and the getting to go and the thing. And a lot of it, maybe that's it, is just do it at home,
I learned to dub from doing cartoons and replacing dialogue, ADR.
Yes.
And you
Old school ADR.
old school ADR, and you hear the beat boop boop boop, and on what would be the fourth beep, you're coming in with your line. And I know when I'm working a dubbing job, an anime job, what you really want to do is see the picture and hear the rhythm of the person that's talking. So that you can fit what you're saying into the rhythm. So if you have a rhythmic musical bass that you can, hear the rhythm of something, instead of trying, I'm saying this word, but
Finding the music or the cadence is
finding
key.
the cadence of it and being able to start on that beep, 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 go.
Yep. And if you start a little bit late, don't try to catch up because that ruins everything.
That ruins the whole thing. Let's see.
It's one of those things that's like it's hard to do until you do. So hey, find yourself a set of beeps and start cueing yourself.
Let's see a couple. Oh boy, you wrote a book here. I know you touched on this a bit earlier, but what are your thoughts on demo producers that record a 2-in-1 demo like video game character? I've always heard to have separate ones, but have also heard from said demo producers that you can't really hear a difference between the two, so they can be swapped out for one another. Don't try to put a video game demo and an animation demo together. Just don't. The people in video games don't want to hear the animation. The people in animation don't want to hear the video games.
And if they do, they can go listen to both. And I've been known to do that when casting things. Like, okay, let me hear your video game demo. I'm like, okay, well, what else can you do? Let me listen to your narration. Let me listen to your animation, and it gives me a better idea of an actor's range for sure. But chances are, if I'm doing something for a video game, I'm gonna hear what I need to hear in that video game demo.
Okay, I've got a Jimmy Bankole. I've heard about a talented a guy with a Kenyan ancestry by the name of Gabe Kunda, who has done very well in anime. Are you aware of this guy, and does he have an accent? I'm just wondering if an African accent can break into the anime industry. Well, if you're talking about Gabe Kunda, he's a very, very, very talented young man. He is of African ancestry. I believe his parents are from Africa. I believe he's first generation, and he does dead-on African accents. He does trailer work. He does commercials, TV promos, and animation and video games.
Yeah.
He's equipped to do it all.
I have not been fortunate enough to meet him in person, I don't think.
And I'm surprised because he's been living in Dallas. He lived in Dallas for years. He lives here now.
Yeah. Oh, is he here? Okay. Yeah. And but he, if he was working with Funimation when I was there, I didn't get in. We didn't cross paths. So I feel like he was kind of coming up as I was going out the door.
And that happens. I've seen a number of people that I met, say, 10 years ago, that are really hitting their stride now. And maybe not 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, really hitting their stride now and getting great careers. Let's see, one more. Scott Early again. Let's say you didn't coach Dave. This is also for Chris as well. How do you go about finding a good coach to work with, and how do you know you are with the right coach when you've had a couple of sessions with the coach? Is it a feeling or the coach's knowledge of their connections in the industry? Thank you again for answering my question.
That's a real good question.
That's a very good question because a lot of people are knocking on the voiceover doors, and there are a lot of people out there who have no business coaching. And you don't want to run into them. You don't want to run into somebody that just tells you what they think you want to hear, that doesn't have the track record and experience over the years to be able to help you. If you hang around this business long enough, and in the groups, the Facebook groups, the other voiceover groups, and ask your fellow voiceover actors, who should I work with? Who did you work with? For this area, who should I work with? you're going to start hearing the same names.
Yeah.
And not the names of the people you shouldn't be with.
and that's a lot of it too, is I think having an idea of what you want to gain from coaching, is going to lead you, down the right path. Some coaches are great with creating characters. Some are great at helping with dialects and all those other things that go on. Figure out what you want to learn, and you'll very quickly figure out who are the best people for that. And I think as long as you have solid expectations about what you want from coaching, you'll have a much better experience, because you won't be setting expectations, unfair expectations on the coach. If and beyond that too, it's like beyond just voice coaching, it's also acting coaching. And, it's like,
I
so
tell people
easy.
all the time, especially,
especially such a niche.
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of pigeonhole ourselves into this niche, but there's so much more you can do. Some of the most successful voice actors I've worked with started as musicians, singers. They have an idea of how to approach a microphone. They have an idea of rhythm, timing, that others don't. So I think just enrich yourself as much as you can in all aspects of performance, and that sets you up. And it sets you up to know where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and then you can focus on finding someone to help you.
And
go to the next
once
level.
again, become a part of the voiceover community. Befriend the people who are doing this thing that you are doing and trying to do, because we share information. You can find out things without having to make a lot of mistakes.
There's so many resources out there now, and and of course at the same time it's way more competitive than it ever has been. There's so many because of this global equalization of being able to do the job from anywhere. That means you're not just competing against your friends and neighbors and the people you run into at the studio. You're competing against people around the world.
Absolutely. So what is being a director taught you about? How has that made you a better actor? How have you learned to communicate with actors?
I think as a director, the thing I love most is working with an actor, helping an actor that I've worked with a million times find a voice that they didn't know they could do, being surprised by a performance or a line read, and a lot of that just comes from, and that has informed me as an actor too. Is I think just being flexible, working with somebody, who likes to be flexible, who likes to collaborate. Those sorts of things really kind of inform each other. And, it's funny when I'm on the occasions that I cast myself in a show, I'll go in and record all my stuff and not really think about it too much. Then I have to
Director hat. Yeah,
yes,
there we go.
I put on the acting hat.
Oh, the acting hat. Sorry.
And then I come back, right, and then I finish, and then I go and I get in this, and then I go sit down in the booth, and I put on my directing hat, and I try to watch all of my performance at once, make notes, and then go back and redo whatever I'm not happy with. It really is something that I gotta, kind of separate my brains from a little bit.
I feel I do a lot of self-directing on my auditions. And I think sometimes we get to a point where we're never satisfied. I see this with every actor I know, myself included. You will give a take, you come back and you listen. Oh, I could have done that line a little better. I could have done this a little bit. And I want to say there's a point where you're done, and the next read will be different, but not necessarily better. And I liken how we feel about getting that perfect read to what we see on movies and television. Those performances are in stone. Whereas if you went to the theater and saw the same play 5 nights in a row,
it would be different.
The performances would be different. They'd still be very good, but the rhythm of them would be a little different based on what the other actor is giving them, how they're feeling that night, what the audience is doing. And the most important thing you want to do is be in character.
Yeah, yeah, not leave that moment, and that's hard to do when you're, a voiceover session is so start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Being able to pick up that character on a dime, and then turn and joke around with the director and engineer for a few minutes, and then back to being in character.
Well, that's better than trying to be a method actor for the whole day.
Yeah, no,
That would be annoying.
A little bit.
Well, listen, we have hit the top. These hours go by fast.
So fast.
These hours go by. Tell your wife that I'm going to have her on.
Oh,
Would love to have her on,
sure.
and maybe get the both of you. But I better have her by herself, and then I could get the both of you at some time. Yeah. But Christopher Bevins, thank you so much. You had so much information to share on a topic we really haven't talked about a lot.
Oh, well, I'm glad I got to help fill that in a little bit.
We've been doing this a couple of years anyway, and I don't think we've had an animation day.
I can wax poetic on animation directing until I sound even more pretentious than I have over the past hour. So have me back anytime, and I'll make it sound much fancier than it really is.
Well, there you go. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to seeing you in another studio
and
again.
Yes, it was so fun. And yes, thank you again for having me on, Dave. This was a blast. I'm so thrilled we've gotten to work together in the past few months and get to know each other. And this was an extra wrinkle. It was
absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye so you can get to your wife and your dinner.
Right.
And to those of you out there who were listening, thank you so much for stopping by. Another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything with Christopher Bevins. And this will live on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. If you are interested in coaching with me, visit davefennoy.com, click on the Study VO tab, and you can also find, if you're looking to get your video game demo, only video game demos done, you can sign up there, and we'll see if we can do that for you. In the meantime, all the best, and book something.